Hi, we are Heather and Marvin of Heavenly Blessings Farm, Old English Sheepdogs. We have a family of 6 who are all involved in the farm. We've been blessed with 3 daughters and 1 son, and all of us are involved in the program in some way. Some of us have bigger parts, some of us have smaller parts. It just depends on where we are in life at that moment. It's changed over the years on what each of us does, but the way that a little bit about our story and how we got started was in 2019. I was finally going to fulfill my dream, my lifelong dream of having an Old English Sheepdog. I had wanted one since I was 5 years old, and we lived on a military base when I was a kid, and there was an Old English Sheepdog next door named Heather. And so I had just always wanted one, but it took me until I was in my mid-40s to finally fulfill that dream. And we started looking, and we found out that there just were not a lot of reliable, ethical, responsible breeders out there who are running programs that were coming from very sound parents with very good health testing and parents with the best temperaments and the best personalities. And we also wanted to really focus on service and therapy dogs as part of our program. And so we found some really good mentors who taught us so much and followed us through our first couple years of business. When you start a breeding program, if you're going to do it the right way, you find your foundation dogs and you get them, and then it takes about 2 years before you have litters because you have to get them through their health testing. You need to make sure that they have the appropriate temperaments and personalities to go ahead and breed. And so we got our first, in 2019 we started looking, in 2020 we got our first dogs, and in 2022 we had our first litters. And so we have now had 17 litters go home. We have somewhere between 3 and 6 litters a year. And our 18th and 19th litters will be born later this year and go home towards the very end of the year. And then I guess our 20th litter will be born sometime in our 6/7th year of business. And so we really focus on making sure that they're just going to be very, very healthy, very sound puppies for our families, who come from fully health-tested parents and from only the best temperaments. And, we just learned a lot as we went. We learned that sometimes you can just put so much into a dog and time and care and money, so much money, and you have to retire them because they just weren't a sound breeder. And that is a hard lesson to learn, but we had to learn it from our mentor breeders that that's the only right way to run your program. And so then we got our program started, and our original 4 foundation dogs lived with us. And then we started looking for guardian homes because it was always our mission that our dogs would never have to live in kennels. And we did not want that for them because Old English Sheepdogs thrive off of human interaction and human love and human emotions, and they just really need that. And we just did not feel like it was right for any of them to have to spend their lives in kennels, and so they don't. So that brought in our guardian homes, and we started looking for guardian homes who would come along beside us, be part of our family, and be part of our program. And we have found some of the very best ones out there. They really are an extended part of our family. And so where our guardian homes come in is we own the dogs, but for the first 5 to 6 years of their lives, a little bit longer for the boys. And the guardian homes are the ones that get to raise them and enjoy them and have all the daily love from them. But they put so much into their dogs, so much care and time and training and attention and love. But when those dogs are ready to retire, then they become their dogs forever, and they get to stay with them. And so when they're old enough and ready to retire, they already have their family that they dearly love and that they have been with forever. And they come and visit during the program time. They come and visit us no less than every 6 weeks, sometimes more often. Sometimes they might be with us for a few days. Sometimes they might be with us for a week. Sometimes we'll have them up to 2 weeks. It depends on if their family's going on vacation or if there's a hospital stay or whatever's going on with their family. But they know our family as one of their families, and they also know their guardian home family as their second family, but actually also their first family in a lot of cases. But anyway, our guardian dogs love us dearly, and we love them just as much. But we figured out that for us, having more than 5 to 7 dogs living here, we just couldn't give them everything that they deserve. And our guardian homes can do that for them. And so our guardian homes have just been such a big blessing to us, and we love them all. And so our program runs with dogs living with us and dogs living in our guardian homes. They all come to us for heat cycles and for their litters, and they stay with us for about 10 weeks when they have their puppies, and then they go back to their guardian homes. And so that has just been a big blessing for us to have that, and that is a lot about our program. We to get back to where heavenly comes from, a lot of people think we spell it wrong, Hivinley or Ly, but that is not the case. It is spelled right because it is a mixture of Heather and Marvin. HEA of Heather becomes the first part of heavenly. VIN of Marvin becomes the second middle part of heavenly. And that becomes our heavenly blessings, which also stems for our strong faith as a family and the blessings the many blessings that God has given us in our lives. And that became heavenly blessings. We have actually used heavenly in about 3 to 4 businesses since the early 2000s when we got married. And so it's just kind of followed us from the very beginning of our marriage through our businesses. And then when we got our farm, it made sense that it would be Heavenly Blessings Farm, Old English Sheepdogs, and that is us. So now that you've heard all about our program and how we got started, it's time to introduce you to all of the dogs. So when we were first looking for our first 2 dogs, we first found Penelope, and she was from Ohio. And then Paddington was in Virginia, and Daisy and Posy came from Oregon, and they were all reserved within a couple of months of each other. But Penelope came home in September 2020, and they were only 5 days apart when they came home. And then Daisy and Posy were not born until February when they were 7 months old, and they came home when they were about 9 months old. So we went from 0 sheepdogs to 4 sheepdogs in 7 months, and that was a learning curve, and it was a lot of fun though. And Daisy and Posy are full littermate sisters from the same litter, and they are very bonded. They have been from the day they arrived. They still, 4.5 years later, are a very much bonded pair. So then, after Daisy and Posy and Paddington and Penelope came home, and we started working on training them and getting them through the kennel club classes and becoming certified therapy dogs, which all of our parents, we desire for them to all be certified therapy dogs. So then we didn't add another dog to the program for about 2 years, and then we kept our very first puppy back from Daisy's her third litter. No, London was from Daisy's second litter. And so we had London, and we brought in Banks because we wanted to get a 2 blue-eyed stud with good hips, but when we did Banks' hip testing, he failed it severely. He had severe hip dysplasia at just 9 months old. And so he had to be retired. We had like $7,000 on him, and we had to retire him, which was not much fun, but he's been an awesome uncle to the farm. He's one of our best dogs. Even though he's not a working breeder, he is very much a part of this farm. And then Brighton also came about the same time as Banks. Banks came in the beginning of January, and Brighton came in March. I guess not quite the exact same time. And she was our first dog that came from champion bloodlines, and we were so excited to start getting to put more of the breed standard into our breeding and really up our game on the quality of body type that we were producing. And that was a very big part for our program. And so for a few months, we had 3 puppies. We had Banks, Brighton, and London, who Banks was born in October, Brighton was born in January, and London was born in February. So they were all pretty close in age. And then we didn't add another dog for about a year and a half. And then Baxter and Clover came. And Baxter we had reserved for a very long time because since Banks failed to be able to be a stud, we needed to bring in a stud that could breed to half of our girls. And so Baxter came in, and he and Clover are full siblings to Brighton, but from a different litter. So same parents, all full siblings, but different litters. And we had Baxter and Clover for about almost a year, and then it was time to start keeping girls back from our moms that were going to get ready to retire. So first we kept Sophia back, and she was from Penelope and Porthos. And then just a week after we kept her back, Baxter, Clover, and Brighton's breeder had a puppy that was from what she called her litter that she ever produced that she didn't have a home for. And so she had asked us if we would consider taking her. And so we ended up not planning on getting Jubilee, but Miss Jubilee entered the program too. So Sophia and Jubilee both entered within a week of each other. They are actually half-sisters because Sophia's dad is Porthos, or no, sorry, I'm wrong. They are both half-siblings to Baxter, Clover, and Brighton because Sophia's dad is Porthos and Jubilee's mom is Bertie. So Sophia and Jubilee are not related to each other, but they're related by half-siblings to the others. And then we had been planning to keep a Posey puppy back for our last 3 Posey litters, and something happened every time, and we had to give up our spot. So we weren't planning on bringing so many puppies in at the same time, but it was our last chance to to keep a Posey girl back, and Posey is just the most amazing mom in our program. So we ended up deciding to keep back Primrose. And then Gwendolyn went all the way to New Jersey and got there, and they couldn't keep her because of some health issues, and their older dog was not adjusting well. So she was only there for 28 hours, and she was back in our arms, and we decided that was God's sign that we were supposed to have the sisters. And so Gwendolyn and Primrose entered the program together. They are full sisters from the same litter from Posey and Paddington. And then we had a boy reserved to be our last stud to bring in so that we can create completely two different lines. And so you need 3 studs to do that. And so we had a stud reserved, and then we kind of got taken advantage of, and a breeder stole our deposit. And then we went back to Daisy and Posey's breeder, who we had always had a very good relationship with, and she gave us an opportunity to get a stud this summer from the last litter that she was going to have with Daisy and Posey's dad. And we already knew that he had excellent hips, and he created such good temperaments in Daisy and Posey, and they did so well with all their health testing. So we brought him in back just a little over a month ago in August, and that is Mr. Remington. And so Remington closes off our need for studs, hopefully ever again in our program. We can hopefully create everything that we need to create now with our studs. And then that finishes off what we'll be bringing into the program for a good long time. And then we also had to say a very, very hard goodbye to Porthos because we had never planned to own Porthos, but his breeder did not want him anymore, and she kept asking us to purchase them. And anyway, we just didn't want him to go back to a bad home, and so he loved it on the farm, and so we just decided to let him retire here. And he was the best livestock protector to all of our dogs, all of our livestock. He was just amazing, the best temperament. And so he was Baxter, Clover, and Brighton's dad, and also Sophia's dad. And then early this year, a FedEx driver was driving incredibly recklessly down our half-mile driveway, and he killed Porthos, and it was devastating, and we're still having a hard time getting over that, but he will always be a very big part of our program. He created half of the dogs in our program, and they are just so amazing, and it's all because of him. And so that is our program in a nutshell.